All right. So continuing chapter 7, types of business structures. We have a business owned by one person. This is known as a sole proprietorship. Partnerships are businesses owned by two or more people. There's different types of partnerships, general partners, um, and limited partnerships. We're going to go over the difference between those two. Uh, Corporations are legally formed business entities that require a lot of paperwork to stay maintained, and they have certain legal and tax protections. Um, Limited liability companies, yes, it's not LLC, is not limited liability corporation, and they offer easier management than a corporation, less paperwork, less people need to be assigned to certain positions, less paperwork filing. The taxes just get you just get taxed once, and the money as the money flows through the LLC, um, and you get this and you get legal protections as well. And if that LLC starts making a lot of money, then you could have an LLC that actually files as an S corp. That would be recommended. Um, then we have limited, which then you get more, uh, you get taxed less than LLCs with the S corp. Syndicate and joint ventures, they're not legally formed business entities. But you don't have to file paperwork to create them and register them with the state like you do for corporations and LLCs and S corps. But we'll go over what a syndicate and joint venture is. A syndicate is the coming together of two or more people to carry out a business project. When the project is done, the syndicate's done. And a joint venture is similar to a syndicate, except instead of two or more people coming together to carry out a business project, it's two or more groups come together to carry out a business project. Once again, also not a legally formed business entity. And then we're going to talk about real estate investment trusts, or REITs for short. And they get the same tax benefits as mutual fund investors. And we'll go over what's required in order to be classified as a REIT. Uh, you don't need to know that for exam, but you do need to know who they get the same tax benefits as. So, mutual fund investors. Okay, now here's some links I threw together since the last class I taught. I forgot about this altogether. Here's a slideshow that has a bunch of different links about, you know, how to fund the LLC, avoid these mistakes before starting an LLC. S corps are the new LLCs. Benefits of starting an LLC in 2025. Okay, so I got a bunch of updates here for that. Not that you guys need to be starting any corporations or LLCs or anything, but if people got questions about it, I got resources. So a lot of this stuff you could find uh, on YouTube yourselves as well. Not that you guys need to form an LLC in order to start working in the real estate business or anything, but here I do have these resources for you. Boom. Okay. So when it comes to business partnerships, we have the book really screwed this up here. I believe they'll be correcting this in the next version, but we'll correct this one right now. So in a partnership, there are two types of partnerships. You have a general partnership and a limited partnership. So what is a general partner? Let's start there. A general partner is one that owns the business, but they work in the day-to-day business. They're involved in the day-to-day business activities. So, general partnership, all the owners, all the investors are general partners that work in the day-to-day business activities of the business to run the business. And they can all be held liable for any additional debts that the business takes on. Whereas a limited partnership, there's always at least one general partner, even in a limited partnership, But in a limited partnership, there's other investors that do not work in the day-to-day activities of the business that may have invested in it. They cannot be held liable for any additional debts the business takes on. They only risk losing their initial investment in the business. But if that business takes out new business loans or what have you, they can't be held liable for them. Okay. So let's cross out these sentences where I got them crossed out because these explanations are just flat out wrong. Okay. So let me know when you guys have that. Okay. So a general partnership has at least all of the partners are general partners. Limited partnership has at least one general partner, and the rest are limited to the extent that they could only lose their initial investment in the business. Okay. Cross this out because this is completely wrong. Where it says, ironically, there's no general partner in a general partnership. No, it's the opposite. In a general partnership, they're all general partners. Okay. They do work in the day-to-day business. So cross that out. That explanation is just wrong right there. So just keep this highlighted. All partners participate to some extent in the operation of the management and may be held personally liable for the business losses and obligations beyond that of their initial investment. Limited partnership, they cannot, and there's always at least one general partner. Let me know when you guys got that.
Got it.
Got it?
Got it.
Okay. And so this is a more accurate definition right here. All co-owners are general partners and an owner that works the day-to-day activities of the business and can be held liable for any additional debts the business takes on. Limited partnership has at least one general partner and the rest are limited. They do not take part in the day-to-day activities of the business and therefore they're limited in their liability to the extent they cannot be held liable to repay additional debts the business takes on. They could only lose their initial investment in the business. That's a more accurate explanation of both general partnership and limited partnership. That definition is more accurate. Real estate ownership by corporations. A corporation is an artificial person. It's a fictitious entity for taxation purposes and some legal protections. Corporations cannot own real estate as joint tenants or by tenants by the entirety because corporations' life has a perpetual existence until it's formally dissolved. It would always be the last man standing, so to speak, in a joint tenancy, so it can never be a joint tenant. And corporations don't get married, people do. So corporations can't be a tenant by the entirety because that's between married couples. When corporations join, it's a merger. When they break up, they dissolve. Corporations can only own real estate as tenants in severalty if sole ownership, or tenants in common if there's a partial ownership. Now, who makes all the decisions in a corporation to buy and sell real estate? Well, the board of directors. Anytime there's a major decision in corporations, it's not just the president or CEO that makes those decisions on their own. They have to run it by the board of directors. What's the job of the board of directors? It's to look out for the best interest, or it's supposed to be to look out for the best interest of their investors. We see a lot of corporations in recent years getting into a lot of social and political nonsense in recent years gone by, and they were making a lot of decisions that risk their investors' money. I mean, look no further than Bud Light. They decide they're going to get involved in some social, political nonsense that had nothing to do with selling their products, and still they haven't recovered from that. Um, you got them with a lot of companies have been doing this kind of nonsense, and I've been waiting for lawsuits to drop from investors that lost money over it, because the board of directors should have been looking out for their best interest and not allowing such stuff. But some corporations, they felt pressured, and they supported it, for all kinds of stuff, all kinds of nonsense. All right. So let's highlight, because the corporation's a legal entity, real estate ownership by corporations in severalty or as tenants in common if it's a partial ownership. And a corporation is managed and operated by its board of directors. And then put a little cross reference there, page 366. Now, I don't think you're going to get this on exams, but another alternative corporate ownership is called an S corp. It's like a corporation, this form of legal entity, but its investors avoid double taxation, where the corporation gets taxed, and then when they pay out the owners, they get taxed. So only the shares of the profits that are passed through the shareholders are taxed, while the profits of the S corp are not. However, an S corp are subject to strict requirements and regulations, just like the corporation would. That's why you would normally do it as an LLC, form an LLC. But once that LLC starts making a decent buck, financially, it makes more sense to have an LLC that files as a S corp. So you get the legal protections and you don't get taxed as much. So here's on page 366, if you want to turn there just to highlight this. I think this is the only thing right there to highlight. Who makes all the major decisions in a corporation? Well, look, in a corporation, if they decide to sell a piece of real estate, they got to run it by their board of directors. A corporation can convey real estate only upon a proper resolution passed by its board of directors. However, if all or a substantial amount of a corporation's real estate is going to be liquidated and sold off, then that'll usually require resolution authorizing the sale secured by their shareholders. Deeds to real estate, when a corporation's selling the real estate, who is authorized to sign? Well, they need some sort of authorized officer appointed by the board of directors. So the authority of the officer must be granted by a resolution that's passed by the board of directors, naming one person to go in and sign any relevant documents to list it for sale, to sign the contracts of sale, etc. Now, a corporate seal doesn't need to be on that document unless the acknowledgement mentions a seal. But who makes all the major decisions in a corporation to buy, to sell real estate, or buy real estate for that matter? It would be a proper resolution passed by its board of directors. Again, can't just send anybody down there and be like, oh yeah, I represent the corporation. Yeah, prove it. Who signs for a corporation? You need some kind of documentation. Even if it's an LLC, you're going to need some sort of a documentation that the person is an authorized officer of that entity to list the property for sale or sign contracts on behalf of that LLC. Right? You just can't take people's words that walk in off the street, right? Oh yeah, I'm here from General Motors. I have authorization to sell their plant. Yeah, buddy. You need some kind of evidence of that, right? I'm from Merck. I'm here to sell their property in Rawway. Yeah. I think we need a little more proof than your word. All right. So it goes the same thing for like little LLCs that are registered as the owner of the of just one piece of real estate. Same kind of thing would apply there. Okay? Now, like I told you, syndicates are joining together of two or more people. We can go back to page 124. You guys back there yet?
Yes.
So syndicates are joining of two or more people to carry out a business project. They're not legally formed business entities. So when the project is done, so is the syndicate. And joint venture is the same thing, except it's instead of two or more people, it's two or more groups. Like if you and a friend get together, decide to buy a house so you could fix it and flip it, you're a syndicate. You got together to carry out a certain business project. When the project's done, syndicate's done. Okay, now REIT is a real estate investment trust. It's a form of organization that's useful for taking advantage of certain tax benefits. They get the same tax benefits as mutual fund investors. In order to have a REIT, you have to have at least 100 investors, and at least 75% of the trust income has to come from real estate as the investment vehicle. So it's a stable investment that pays out slow and steady. REITs, they usually invest in buying like large apartment complexes or shopping centers or things of that nature that have a lot of tenants. They're usually uh, big investments, but it's a real estate investment. You know, who says you have to have your, you know, your retirement plans investing in commodities or stocks and bonds? Why, or mutual funds? You know, who said, why not have a fund that gets its money from real estate as the investment? And that's exactly what a REIT is. They invest in large apartment complexes with several hundred units, high-rise buildings, business centers, shopping centers, etc. They're usually stable investments that pay out slow and steady. The only time that they ever would pay out big is if they sold that parcel of real estate. Otherwise, they just slow and steady. They do payouts from the income from all the rents that they're collecting. And REITs usually purchase large properties. You know, I've had a REIT come into my office once and say that they were looking for investments that are minimum $10 million investments. You know, they're looking for apartment complexes and such like that. You know, so wish I kept that guy's number, but yeah. That's what a REIT is. So here we can highlight that now on page 124. Real estate investment trust, REITs, is a form of organization that's useful for taking advantage of certain tax benefits. They get this, and then right down there at the bottom, they get the same benefits as mutual fund investors. And then the definition of a real estate investment trust, real estate investors can take advantage of the same tax benefits as mutual fund investors. That's actually on page 333 in a much later chapter. Let me know when you guys have all that.
Got it.
Okay. Okay, so now we're going to talk about condominiums and cooperatives. You all probably heard of those terms before, but do you actually know what they mean, what they are? So when it comes to condominiums and cooperatives, um, let's learn about what they are here. So a condo and a cooperative ownership of housing has risen in the second half of the 20th century, together with townhouses and planned unit developments, which we'll call PUDs for short. Condos and co-ops offer the emotional, financial, and tax advantages of home ownership combined with the various advantages of apartment living. As opposed to traditional single-family homes, condos and co-ops offer more efficient use of ever scarcer building land, lower costs for lot development, less outlay for construction per living unit, and in some cases, and some savings in maintenance and heating bills. Contributing to the growth of condos and co-ops are changes in population patterns. We have increasing number of single homeowners and one-parent families and senior citizens. Um, as society changes and societal norms change, you get people, they don't get, they may not be believing in marriage or wanting to get married or anything like that. You have these broken uh, family structures. It's not a, what do they call it? Some kind of the nuclear family. I don't know where the heck that term came from, but you probably heard it on the news quite a bit. The nuclear family. What the heck is a nuclear family? Well, that's when you have your mom and dad present. They're involved in your life. Okay. So you got the child, you got the mother and the father all there. But they make it sound like it's like a bad thing. The nuclear family. Okay. How about I don't know, traditional family, where you got a mother and father there, but where you have single parent households, um, so they don't require the bigger house and such. So to such groups, community living offers security and sociability, ease of maintenance, and sometimes the opportunity for sharing expensive recreational facilities like those Olympic-sized swimming pools and tennis courts and basketball courts and maybe they have meeting rooms, perhaps with a pool table. They got the workout center with a fully stocked gym, things of that nature that you probably couldn't afford in your own house if you had one anyway. So the terms condominium and co-op refer to the forms of ownership. And simply looking at a complex, you got no idea what form of structure it is other than reading the sign if it says condo or co-op on it, which is short for cooperative. Now, in the buildings themselves, they could be high rises, the architectural styles. They could be high rises, townhouses, patio homes, garden apartments, or even single detached houses can be part of a condo complex or co-op, what have you. The differences arise from the legal form of ownership. It's in the paperwork. And simply looking at a structure gives you no idea as to what form of ownership it is. And there are also business condos too. Condos aren't limited to just residential dwellings. You guys probably have been to one at some point. You maybe have a doctor or a dentist or a chiropractor or a tax attorney or even a real estate agent as an attorney or what have you that actually have a business condo because it's cheaper than having a standalone structure for those offices. All right, so cooperative ownership is common in New York City. We do have some co-ops here in New Jersey too, especially just across the water from New York City. We also have them right here in Edison. Edison has co-ops, um, you know, uh, right across the street from Menlo Park Mall. Where that Panera Bread is and 7-Eleven. There's a side street there that takes you to a big complex. It's kind of hidden if you didn't know it was there. Of they look like condos. The architectural style is the same, but it's actually a big co-op complex. Okay, on the border of let's see, when you're passing Edison on the border of Highland Park and Edison before you cross over the bridge there on Route One, that's a big co-op complex over there too, very large. Okay, so um, let's see. So cooperative ownership became popular in the 1920s as the urban population grew after World War One. Individual housing became more expensive and boards of directors were choosy about who can buy in. The number of newly built co-ops have decreased a lot over the last 50 years, but they're still around. Under the usual cooperative agreements, title to the land and the building is owned by the corporation, and each purchaser of an apartment in the building receives stock in that corporation and a custom lease. They call it a proprietary lease. It's a fancy name for custom lease, which gives the purchaser the right to occupy their apartment. But do you own real estate when you own a co-op? No. You own stock in a corporation that owns the real estate, and they give you a custom lease that allows you to occupy the apartment that you live in. So that being said, can we as real estate agents um, prepare contracts for the purchase of co-ops?
No, we can't.
No, because it's stock. So attorneys do that. We can market them, we can take them as listings, but the actual contracts are prepared by an attorney. And quite frankly, a lot of attorneys don't even prepare the contracts outright. They just fill in some blank lines because I've seen a lot of them. They just steal the co-op contract that the New York City Housing Authority created. Then they just fill in some blank lines and they use that one. Now, the cooperative buildings real estate taxes are assessed against the corporation as the owner. There's usually one underlying mortgage on the entire parcel of real estate, and taxes, mortgage, principal, and interest, and operating and maintenance expenses of the property are shared by the tenant shareholders in the form of a monthly maintenance charge, which is higher than it is in condominiums. Because in condominiums, when you own a condo, you have your own mortgage bill, your own mortgage loan bill. You get a tax bill. You get your own water. So the water bill sometimes can be included in the monthly maintenance charge as well. Same thing for the maintenance of the property. So the maintenance fee for condos is usually a lot smaller because it doesn't include property taxes and an underlying mortgage payment for the entire complex, etc. So they're larger for those co-ops. But co-ops are a lot cheaper to purchase and get into because you're not actually owning real estate. So it's probably about the quarter of the price of buying it as if it was real estate as a condominium. So even though co-op owners do not actually own real estate, they own stock, which is personal property. Each prospective owner must be approved by the board of directors, and because of that, people sometimes feel like they've been discriminated against. Well, they have to be discriminated against, not in the negative way as far as like racial discrimination or something. They can't do that, but it still feels bad when you're rejected. Okay, look, you could have some co-ops where the building is only for artists. Okay, you have to be an actor, a dancer, a writer, a singer, a poet, a musician, or some sort of artist, the painter, the sculptor. This is an artist community, and you must be an artist to live in this building. So the board of directors there, they interview you and they see if you're a good fit. And some of them can even be really snobby about it. So when you're rejected by someone like that you want to slap in the face, it kind of hurts. Feels like you've been discriminated against, right? But let me ask you a question. is being an artist or not a protected class? Is that a protected group under any law?
No.
So being rejected for not being an artist is perfectly legal. Don't feel good when you are because you're, you know, they were selective there. They were discriminating against you, but they were allowed to because it's not a protected class. As long as they don't discriminate against one of the protected classes, it's fine. So, yeah, they could be more choosy. Now, usually they're more selective and choosy because of people's credit scores and their history of paying their debts on time. Usually they require a minimum 620 FICO credit score. The FICO stands for the Fair Isaacs Credit Company, or Fair Isaacs and Company, uh, who created the credit scoring system there. Now, 620 is considered prime. That's the average. Okay. Any credit score below 620 is considered subprime. It's considered to be a poor credit score. Okay. So if yours is around there, you better start doing something to try to improve it, Um, I'll give you a lot of tips on improving credit scores, but maintain a long line of credit for a long time. Don't cancel those old cards. Keep them active. Use them every once in a blue moon, even just to make sure that they're being used. It's good to have a long line of credit. It shows stability. Don't be replacing all your old cards because you got ones with better rates now or whatever. Make a charge on it every now and then and pay it on time in full. You know, uh, don't charge things unless you got all the money. Don't carry balances, especially balances more than 15 or 20% of what can be totally charged, the type of credit that you have. Um, these are ways to build your credit up really fast. Yeah, trust me on this. I know. Let me take a look. You guys can monitor your credits. Check out what your credit score is by getting an app. Let me see my banking apps here. Pull up one that's called Credit Karma. You guys ever hear of that? Credit Karma? It's a free app. You could they check with two of the three credit reporting agencies. They run your credit, but it doesn't put a negative hit on your credit. It's a soft hit on your credit as they do inquiries and they monitor it. You know, uh, here we go. So that's not a bad credit score, huh? In the best your credit, the highest your credit score goes up is 850. So I got 825 and 826 here. Good job, Vic. Proud of that. Especially since at one point in my life, I had a poor credit score. I even dipped below 600 at one point. But I learned how to manage my finances, my bills. I don't buy stuff if I don't have the money for it or I can't pay it in full in advance. Um, Maintain that long line of credit and such. These are the ways to build up your credit scores. Okay. Monitor your credit report. Look it up. That Credit Karma, you could see your credit report and look for any charges that are not yours, that are abnormal. Okay, if you could just open up an app and you could look at your most recent credit report there and know if those charges are legit or not. Make sure if nobody's stealing your identity. Your credit. That could be a big problem. Um, Look, a lot of people are stealing identities all the time because they need them to work. If you don't have a working Social Security number, you don't have a um, working papers. There's a lot of people out there that get jobs. They use stolen identities, stolen credit cards, um, and and then there's just thieves out there, that like to steal identities and your credit information. You got to keep up on that in order to maintain that good credit score, but also to make sure that people aren't stealing your life away there. It's important to have a good credit score if you ever want to buy anything, right? If you ever want to get the best interest rate when you buy something and you're getting a loan, you need to have a good credit score. The top tier credit scores are anything above 740. 720 is considered excellent. I think though to get the best, absolute best, I think it's got to be around 740 and above to get that best credit score. So or interest rate. So like when you see like mortgage loans or what have you, or commercials on TV for purchasing a car with this interest rate, that's an interest rate that you're probably not going to get unless you got that top tier credit score. Okay. Otherwise, you get a little bit higher interest rate because your credit score's lower. All right. So one disadvantage of cooperative ownership is the possibility that if enough owner occupants become financially unable to make prompt payments of their monthly assessments, the corporation might be forced to allow mortgage and tax payments to go unpaid. This was actually a problem in the 1930s. Through such defaults, the entire property could be ordered sold by a court a court order in a foreclosure suit. And such a sale may destroy the interest of all the owners, even those other owners who have been paying their monthly assessments on time. That's why, because of that, that's why they're more selective, and they don't take tenants with lower credit scores than 620. They're looking out for the community as a whole. So accumulation of substantial fund of reserves for future repairs and emergency payments. I like that. That's the definition of reserves. What are reserves? It's accumulation of substantial funds for future payments, future repairs, and emergency payments. Condos have them too. Shareholders have all the same income tax advantages of income tax, all the same income tax advantages of the owner of a single family home. The portion of the maintenance charges attributable to property taxes and mortgage interest may be taken as income tax deductions. Interest paid to finance the stock purchase is also deductible. Oh, yeah, that's another issue. Can you get a mortgage loan to buy a co-op?
No, because it's not a form of real estate.
Yeah. Because what is a mortgage loan? Well, what's a mortgage? It's a promise to pay. And what does that promise to pay say? If I fail to pay you back according to the terms in the note, which is the financing instrument that lays out all the terms of the financing, you can foreclose on me, take the property, sell it at auction, and use the proceeds to pay off the debt. But the thing is, you don't own the real estate. So you can't have a mortgage loan. You can't make such promises because you don't own the real estate. You own stock in the corporation that owns the real estate, and they gave you a proprietary lease. So you're going to either need cash or a personal loan to buy in a co-op. It's not a mortgage loan because it's not real estate. So many co-ops do not permit rentals. Who takes better care of the real estate, renters or owners?
Owners.
Owners do. Renters could care less. It ain't their property. That's the attitude a lot of them get. So, in the long run, you could foresee that they're not going to stay in as good a shape as if it was a complex that was occupied by owner occupants. So they don't usually allow rentals. Now you can come across a co-op that may allow rentals, but generally speaking, most co-ops do not allow rentals. Because look, if you could get, if a co-op is a quarter of the price of a condo, and you could afford to buy a condo, you'd be like, shoot, I'll buy 4 of them. I'll rent out the other 3 and I'll make money. Nope. they don't want you doing that because then pretty soon the whole place is going to get overrun by renters. And if that happens, they don't take care of it as good. Any future purchasers may have trouble or difficulty getting financing to purchase in there again. So New Jersey law provides, however, that owners of co-ops in buildings that have 10 or more units may rent their units if they're having difficulty trying to sell theirs for 4 or more months at a price no greater than what they purchased it for, their initial investment. So if you try selling your co-op for at least 4 months at no more than what you bought it for, and you're unable to sell it, then New Jersey law requires allowing the landlord or the owner of the co-op to rent it. Okay, so co-op living tends to be a lot more stable because it's really affordable to get ownership there. Quarter of the price of what condos usually go for. However, remember the monthly maintenance charge is a lot higher, but that's because it includes the property taxes, often the heating, the sewer bill, the heating, the property maintenance, all that stuff is all included. The insurance, all that stuff is included in the monthly payment. So that's why it's higher. All right, so title to the land with co-ops is held by the corporation. Corporation owns the real estate, right? Purchasers do not own real estate. You own stock, which is an intangible personal asset. You get a proprietary lease. That's a fancy name for a custom lease, which gives the tenant stockholder the right to occupy the unit that they're living in. Income tax advantages are identical to those of single-family homeowners. The tenant has a voice to control property through their stock ownership, and maintenance fee is usually much higher than it is in condos because it usually includes your mortgage, taxes, insurance, CAM, common area maintenance, sewer, heating, trash and snow removal, etc. And the common area maintenance charge, that's like the landscaper and all that stuff, taking care of all the common areas, the pool, the recreational facilities, yada, yada. Value of the property tends to be more stable and not fluctuate as radically as it would in real estate, as real estate markets fluctuate with condo ownership, because condo ownership is ownership of real estate. So just like houses, real estate markets are cyclical. They go up, they go down. Same thing with condos. Cooperatives, they tend to be a lot more stable. If the prices shoot up a lot with houses and condominiums, with a cooperative, you may see just a little bit of a bump instead of a radical price change in its value. They tend to be a lot more stable. So there's shared expense, usually one mortgage on the entire property. It has tenant shareholders. Taxes are charged to the corporation as the owner and billed to the tenants as part of their monthly maintenance fee. They have bylaws just like condominiums do. Those bylaws require each purchaser must be approved by the board of directors, which manages the corporation. Usually has a minimum FICO credit score requirement of 620. Most do not permit renting because if there's too many renters, people may have difficulty obtaining financing for purchasing other units. And then here's that New Jersey law exception that allows rentals. If there's 10 or more units and you've been trying to sell it for 4 or more months for a price no greater than what you bought it for, you're allowed to rent it. Long-term stability of tenants is common, and financing the purchase has to be cash or a personal loan. You can't use a mortgage loan to purchase because you don't own real estate, so you can't make a promise that you're putting up the real estate as collateral for the loan. Real estate agents cannot prepare sales contracts for cooperatives. They must be prepared by attorneys. You're selling stock, not real estate. Let me back up once. If you guys want to take a screenshot of this one and the previous one here, these are actually really good notes. On the coming slides, I'm going to give you a bunch of pages that you're going to highlight all the details there of the co-ops, but here we got them all in a bulleted list here, everything you need to know about cooperative ownership. Okay. And if you want to get a screenshot of this one. Okay. So let's now talk about condominiums. The first condominiums were built in Puerto Rico in 1958, and the FHA was allowed to insure mortgages for condominiums by 1969. Many people were introduced to condominium ownership in Florida, which had introduced the concept from Puerto Rico. Popularity stems from the ability to obtain affordable housing, often in highly desirable areas that are typically beyond the economic reach of most because they're very expensive. Look, in Florida is popular. You want to get a beachfront property, it can be expensive, right? But condominium made that more obtainable rather than having a single family house and enough property to put that on. Right? So buyers of condominiums receive a deed conveying fee simple ownership of two things: their living unit from the paint on the interior walls inward, and a proportionate, undivided interest in the common area elements. And chief among those elements are the land that it's sitting on, the exterior of the buildings. Common property can also include hallways, basements, elevators, driveways, stairwells, private roads, sidewalks, lawns, landscaping, and those recreational facilities. In many respects, condo ownership can be regarded in the same light of a single detached house. Title could be held in severalty by the entirety as joint tenants or tenants in common. The unit receives an individual tax bill and may be mortgaged like a house would be. The owners place a separate insurance policy on their living space, and income tax advantages are identical to those of single-family homes. The owners are free to sell the property, lease it, give it away, or leave it to their heirs. Each unit's a financial entity, and if an adjoining unit is foreclosed, no obligations incurred by the other owners. Owners are, however, bound by the bylaws of the homeowners association to which all will belong. If you own a condo, you are a homeowner, you are part of the homeowners association, and you have a voice in the management of it. However, usually they'll appoint a board of people to manage the condo complex that are homeowners within it. But they have they have fiduciary duties just like a real estate agent would. They should have expertise in their role that they play for managing the finances and the maintenance of that property. Now, as long as the rules are not unreasonable, let's put air quotes around that, unreasonable, New Jersey law permits associations to enforce their rules by fining residents who fail to comply. So it's kind of like a mini government, like your city, the municipality that you live in, right? You have politicians there and people that are appointed to manage the city. You got a mayor, you got a city council. That's kind of like the role that the homeowners association takes. So with that comes also the possibility for, nepotism and corruption, I guess we could say, because with great power comes great responsibility. Is that what Spider-Man said, right? With great power comes great responsibility. Well, same thing goes with these people. You get a little power, sometimes it goes straight to their heads. So New Jersey law permits associations to enforce their rules by fining those residents who fail to comply. Listen, I've had situation before where I helped. In my time, I sold a lot of condos, a lot. I specialized in it after a while because I seen that's where the majority of my business was coming from. You know, like you guys, I'm sure, getting started, you want to sell those mansions, the expensive homes, right? Uh, that's not so easy to break into. Baby steps. Let's sell some average size homes first, okay? Average priced homes, because you need to know what you're talking about, what you're doing. Because when you start approaching someone who's got a mansion or these very expensive homes, they're not just going to list their property with some agent that knocked on their door or sent them a mailing. You know, they're going to interview you. They're going to ask you questions. You know, what's your list to sale price ratio? How many homes have you sold in the last year? They're going to ask you all kinds of questions you may not have answers to, or the answers are not going to be too inviting because you're brand new. So you're probably not going to get those listings. Okay, maybe if you go on that listing appointment with your broker or something, maybe you guys can get that, you know, the gift of gab a little bit. That'll help you get those listings a little better. But don't expect to get them just breaking into the business. Okay. Not unless you have some connections and know people, and those are the circles that you normally ran in to begin with around those rich folk. Okay, otherwise you're going to be shot down, and then you're going to resort, like I did, to selling homes to people who fix and flip, and two-family houses and condos and co-ops, which is what I did. And then I ended up selling a lot of condos. I became quite the expert at it. Um, and, I even started marketing myself, put a little humor to it. I started marketing myself as the condo king. You know, what the hell? Why not? Um, yeah, whatever works, cheesy stuff like that does work though. But it's marketing. Play with it, have a little fun with real estate until you learn about it. There's some condominium complexes you could have two units. They look exactly the same size and everything, but one sells for more than the other, even though they're exactly the same as far as updates go and everything. Why would one go for significantly more than the other being in the same complex? Well, one of them may have a deeded parking spot or a deeded storage area in the basement of the building. They have like maybe they may have like storage cages. You got a 10 by 10-foot room where you could instead of renting a storage place, you've got your own 10 by 10 basement area or whatever. So these types of things may come as additional. And if that's the case, you need to be aware of them. So as real estate agents, we need to interview those property owners when selling those condominiums. Ask them what's special, anything special or unique about their unit. Ask them outright, just like that, to in order to be able to price it properly to begin with, right? So while condominium boards can stall or exercise the first right of refusal, if it does, they rarely have the right to evict an owner. Monthly fees are levied for the maintenance, insurance, management on the common elements. Okay, well, let's back up for a little bit to that previous statement about evicting an owner. I've come across situations before where an owner wasn't paying their mortgage bill, they weren't paying their maintenance fees or any of that stuff, and the condo did get them evicted, and then they foreclosed on them before the lender did. Wait, in the lien priority order, who takes priority? A first loan from the lender or a condominium association because the monthly maintenance fees aren't being paid? I have actually come across this. Now, I was kind of shocked because I've sold many condos and never heard of such a thing happening before. And then I had this little string of area where I came across several of them. Across a little short string of time, I came across several of them where the condo complex actually foreclosed and then started renting the unit out so that they could try to recoup as much of their unpaid maintenance fees and legal charges until the lender foreclosed on them because they knew they didn't have the right to jump ahead of a lender and foreclose but they said, you know what, we're gonna foreclose and we're gonna rent this place out as long as we can to get as much of our money back, recoup as much of it back as possible. In the meantime, until the lender forecloses. Yeah. So it was a smart thing to do, I guess, if they could get away with it, and they did. But I never heard of such thing happening. It's not that common. Now, monthly fees are levied for the maintenance, insurance, and management of common elements. If unpaid, these common charges become a lien against the individual property owner, the individual unit owner, and may even be enforced by foreclosure, but they don't affect your neighbors like it would with a co-op. If enough people don't pay their maintenance fees, it could affect the neighbors because the corporation's not collecting enough money to pay the underlying mortgage and taxes on the property, and the whole complex can end up getting foreclosed on. Now, it's unlikely that that happens, but it has happened in the past, back in the 20s and 30s. So the bylaws also set up covenants, conditions, and restrictions known as CC&Rs. What is a CC&R? Covenants, conditions, and restrictions that are set up in those bylaws that could have rules on what the individual unit owners can do. I had this affect me before where I had listings and I put them up not just in the MLS, I put ads out on all kinds of social media and even those community websites like Craigslist and stuff like that. I put up rentals, and then the owner called me. He's like, "Take that down real quick. You put up pictures up there. We're not supposed to have a washer or dryer inside of our unit." And I put up like all pictures of the unit, and there was a washer and dryer in there, and you had somebody on the HOA, the homeowners association, was trolling websites looking for anybody who owns a unit there that's renting them out, seeing if they're doing anything wrong. They're trolling the websites, and they sent them a letter with the picture of the washer and dryer. They were going to inspect the unit. They're not supposed to have that because it could mess up the plumbing systems. Da, 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 da. So he had to pull out that washer and dryer. I took down that listing. Yeah, that was a bit of a headache, because you got these trolls that are running in the homeowners association. They're basically they're treating it like they're running the place like a bunch of Nazis, with the strict rule and iron fists, And listen, I sold a lot of condos, and I've had many instances where people love the complex, they just hated the management. The management are these elected people that are part of the homeowners association themselves. They become the part of the property management, and like a mini government where you got your mayor and your city council. The power goes to their head, and they start creating stupid rules. They go around enforcing them, walking around with their clipboards. I'm going to even show you a little goof video from I think it's Geico, because the stereotype, a lot of stereotypes have some truth to them, and this one is definitely one of them, where that power goes straight to their head. I'm going to show you a little video on it in a second. So if unpaid, these common charges become a lien against the individual unit and may even be enforced by foreclosure. The bylaws set up covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC&Rs. You guys got those highlights down? These CC&Rs, they could prohibit you displaying a for sale sign on your front lawn or even putting one in your own front window. So if you're going to do an open house and sell your condo, can you put up signs with the balloons and arrows leading up to your unit inside the complex? No. You'll probably have the maintenance guys driving around and picking them out of the ground and throwing them in the dumpster. So when you're doing those, they should be by appointment that they need to call up, or you put the signs up leading to the complex with the unit number written on those signs somehow. That's the only way you could really do open houses for condos. Now, they can also prohibit things like putting a for sale sign or painting your front door a wacky color, like a bright red or orange or something, hot pink. Why is that? Well, it's for good reason because that's gaudy. And it starts to affect the way that the complex looks if everybody's doing their own thing. Uh, and the property values don't maintain as well then. So they have rules of look, even where you could have even where and if you could have a barbecue. Because some complexes they have their own barbecues that are set up in the designated areas. Um, Others may allow you to put a barbecue out on your patio, or your um, the that back porch or a patio area. Um, Others they don't want that happening because then the smoke lingers into the neighbors, so they got rules against this. So a condominium is governed by its board of directors, consisting of often elected volunteers who actually live in the building. They're part of the homeowners association. And as fiduciaries, they have a responsibility to have knowledge and look out for the best interest of everybody there in the complex. Okay. But sometimes they can become real pains in the butt, you know, and sometimes they could look out in their own best interest, nepotism. Just like down in City Hall. You ever go down to City Hall in your towns and see that, you know, one of the city workers has their whole family working down there? That's nepotism. Through their connections of who they know, they get them the jobs. When those public jobs are supposed to be posted publicly and they're supposed to get the best candidates for the job. So sometimes this happens in homeowners associations where you get those people that are on the board, and what they'll do is, oh, my husband, he's a landscaper. We should hire him as the landscaper for the complex. And then another guy there, he's like, yeah, well, my wife, she's an attorney. We should have her as the attorney on retainer for the complex. So now they're not actually putting out bids to get the best contractors for the best prices, doing the best services. So when that happens, sometimes those monthly maintenance fees start rising because they're not looking out for the money of everybody that lives in the complex. So when you buy a complex, let me give you when you buy into a condo complex, let me give you guys a little tip here. You're going to need to get a copy of the bylaws for that purchaser, so they're aware of what all the rules are. And you should also request a copy of the financials. Basically, their accountant will create a report of the last 2 or 3 years of finances for the complex. And then now I asked an attorney before, because we always look this up. So I'm curious. I'm like, what exactly are you looking for in the financials to determine if everything's okay or not? He's like, well, one thing is we look to see that there's no lawsuits going on. So attorneys being paid exorbitant amounts of money. If there's any lawsuits going on, we're going to highly recommend you don't purchase until any of those lawsuits are settled in that complex, because it could end up costing everybody that's living there. Then what you also do is you look to make sure that in their reserve account, they have enough money to run the entire complex for 2 to 3 months. If not another penny came in and nobody paid the maintenance charge, they have at least 2 to 3 months of money in the reserve account to run the complex. Because if they don't, it's being mismanaged, and the monthly maintenance fees are going to be going up soon. Okay, so good to know info, right? Sharing that with you. Okay, so how do you establish a condominium? Well, in New Jersey, the creation of condominiums is regulated by the state's Horizontal Properties Act and the Condominium Act of 1970. It basically says, first, the owners of a property execute and record a master deed, and they file it in the public records in the county where the property is located. Many items must be contained in or attached to that master deed, including a legal description of the land, a graphic description of the buildings, and other improvements which identify the individual units by letter, name, or number, and specifies a percentage of the common area elements, if any, are included in the ownership of each unit, like that separate storage unit or the deeded parking space that the other units may not have. A description of the common area elements and a provision for an association of unit owners and a list of bylaws to start out. So when you own a condo, what are you getting? You're getting a deed you receive a deed for fee simple ownership of two things. Their living unit from the paint on the interior walls inward, because you're not supposed to be breaking into the walls and stuff, because those pipes behind the walls, they're shared by all the other unit owners. The water goes through those. So you can't go breaking those pipes. You got to contact the association and get permission from them before doing any improvements. You could do improvements within the paint on your interior walls inward. Can't be breaking down the walls and messing with the plumbing, though. And a proportionate undivided interest in the common area elements. HOA, that's the homeowners association to which all will belong. They set up bylaws, those CC&Rs, covenants, conditions, and restrictions. Those are the rules that all the unit owners have to follow or face possible fines. Now, there are rules that can prohibit displays of for sale signs or painting your front door a wacky color or restricting oversized or commercial vehicles from parking in the parking lot. They may have a rule, no decorations in the flower pots or car wraps on vehicles, because they could be construed as commercial, or decorations in the flower pots. Sometimes you see people put their little American flags or whatever flags in the flower pots, and then it becomes a hot button issue. Oh, this person got a flag up. Why can't I have a flag up? So I'm going to put up my you have an American flag, I'm going to put up my Palestinian flag or my ISIS flag or my other whatever gay pride flags or whatever, and the place starts looking ridiculous with all people draping these flags all over the place. So they just put rules in place, no flags. And then, some Veterans Day honors the American flag, puts it out there, and he gets affected by this rule too. And unfortunately, they start fining him for violating the rule. And then next month, if he didn't remove it, they fine him again, and they tack on an attorney fee and the interest, and it keeps compounding until they foreclose on him to get their payment, right? So, and then you see something on the news at night where this old timer, some old man, a veteran, was getting foreclosed on, and they put a rally out there for people to, submit money to help him pay those fines, because this evil complex is, trying to foreclose on this old timer veteran who's just trying to be patriotic. Okay, but this is where this stuff comes from. So HOA fees, the owner has to pay a monthly HOA fee that covers, paying the landscaper for doing snow removal or cutting the grass, for those dumpsters to get where they put the trash and the recycling to get taken out, for the maintenance of the swimming pool and the tennis courts and everything else, they're managed by an HOA board. Professional management is usually hired if there's more than 25 units, but not necessarily. Anyone want to snap a picture of that? Look, here's that goof video. By the way, I told you, condominiums, they could be any architectural style, even single-family detached houses. Now, this behind them, I don't know if this is single-family detached house or if these are like maybe two houses that are connected, two units, a bunch of architectural styles like that, of duplexes. But, Geico made this goof commercial about a stereotype that is real. So let's check it out. Crank up the volume a little bit so make sure we could hear it.
We love our new home. Neighborhood's great.
Amazing school district. The HOA has been very involved.
These shrubs aren't board approved. You need to break down your cardboard.
Thank you.
Violation. Violation.
I see you've met Cynthia.
At least Geico makes bundling our home and car insurance easy.
It does help us save a bunch of money.
2 inches over regulation.
Thanks, Cynthia.
For bundling made easy, go to
I would kill her. What the hell, man? You're cutting down my freaking mailbox with a chainsaw because it's 2 inches over regulation. See how they're going? Look at the bushes. You got to trim these shrubs. You got to break down your cardboards. And her little beta husband boy there, or whoever that guy is. You know, he's walking around with the clipboard, making the notes as she's the aggressor there. Yeah, that's the kind of stuff you see. Now, he's taking care of his lawn here because most condominium complexes, they got landscapers that take care of the exterior of the building, you know, and the grounds. However, when you got complexes like this, where there's single family houses, they usually require that the property owner maintain the lawn around those houses. But they could say, like, you can't put flower pots and hang different kinds of things. They need to get board approved first. I got a bunch of other evasive, you know, restrictive condominium rules here. Like, here's one with a story where the HOA forces homeowners to leave their garage doors open during the day. Can you imagine? You got any valuables stored in your garage? You have an entrance into your house that makes it easier that someone can break into your house if they got into the garage? You know, but yet that's a rule that the HOA put into, that one HOA put into place. They got a story here. But why? Because some people were finishing off their garages and then renting them out as space for people to live in. Yeah, but that's kind of extreme now. Now, keeping your garage door open, that's an invite for rodents and all kinds of critters to come into the house as well. People to steal your stuff and see what you got going on inside. Yeah, I'm not leaving my garage door unlocked when people are not at home. Here's another one. This HOA forced people to buy a $500 mailbox. This one guy, he actually fought it. He was like a NASA engineer or something. He actually fought this one. And tens of thousands of dollars later in legal fees, he ended up winning. You know, he bought this nice custom mailbox all of his own that he just put up with the cedar shakes on it. But he said it's the principle of it. He's like, what are they going to do next? Require us all to have a certain type of roof? And I just replaced my roof. Now they're going to require me to replace it again and pay a fee because they want it to look a certain way. You know, so he actually won that case. That was a little bit too restrictive for those HOAs, but took years of legal battle and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees to win it. So he didn't have to pay $500 for a mailbox.
I have a house in Florida that's in an HOA, whatever development,
Yeah.
and the tenant that lives in that house, they kept parking their car in the driveway, but it was like 3 inches going onto the sidewalk. I can't tell you how many fines they got for that 3 inches going. And I kept telling the property management company, tell these people that they need to move their car up 3 inches because we keep getting these violations. And they were relentless. They did not stop, and they gave us tickets because the trees were the palm trees were not trimmed enough. It's crazy. It really is.
Yep. I've actually seen that thing with the driveway and the car poking out of the into the sidewalk a little bit past the driveway. I actually have a video of a court case for that where it wasn't even in a condo complex. You know, it was just wait, was it? No, it may have been actually in the condo complex. Come to think of it, there was a type of condo complex with single family homes. Okay, and yeah, they were finding residents, and the guy was like, "Wait a minute, you know, I- I've been parking like this for years, for at least 20 years." And the car has been poking out a couple inches, and now all of a sudden I'm getting fined regularly because you got new people managing the HOA, um, and they're fining me for this. So he actually took it to court and he won that they can't be fining for it sticking 2 or 3 inches out. Some of the rules they kind of they're kind of overreaching with those rules. It's just like your municipality. If your city comes up with all kinds of city ordinances that are overstepping their authority. Um, but with condo complexes, yeah, you see this stuff all the time. Like I said, there's plenty of people's condos that I sold that they loved the complex they lived in. They just couldn't deal with the bullshit anymore from the HOA. Like this lady over here. What would you know, put your hands around her throat, if she, harassing you constantly like that. These bushes need to be trimmed. You got to break down your cardboards. Violation, violation. Let's take down all of your flower decorations. Let's take a chainsaw to your to your mailbox because it's 2 inches over regulation. Be like, lady, you're gonna get
We
a
had
big.
to get the color white proved that the garage door was going to be painted.
Oh, it's got to be of the right shade, of course.
It had to be the right shade of white. It was crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are real things. But the law in New Jersey says as long as the rules are, what does it say? As long as the rules are not, what's the wording that they use? Excessive or, uh, unreasonable. Okay, so as long as the rules are not unreasonable, that's why I said put air quotes around that word unreasonable, because with some of these people, that power goes straight to their freaking head, and oh, they become nightmares to deal with. And you get people that then they sell because they want to get the hell out of there because they don't want to deal with that nonsense. All right, so condominium ownership is regulated by the state's Horizontal Properties Act. Certain tenants may not be evicted during condo conversions. What is a condo conversion? We're going to go over that in the next slide, I think, or 2 slides from now. Owners of condos have tax advantages identical to those of single-family homes, and condos can be any architectural style. Reserves, here's a definition I put in here, my definition with my explanation that I told you about to teach you a little bit about what they look for. Reserves is an amount of money saved up for emergencies and repairs. You highlighted that line in the book. However, I go on to say here in this definition, it is extra money built into the monthly maintenance fee. Both condos and cooperatives have them. There should be at least 2 to 3 months operating expenses to run the entire complex in the reserve account. Otherwise, it's probably being mismanaged and the monthly fee is sure to go up in the future. It's true. Put together this side by side for you. Condos versus co-ops. You own real estate with a condo, you have stock and a lease with a cooperative. Mortgage bill, you do with a condo, co-ops, cash or personal loan. You get a tax bill with a condo, not with a co-op. Yeah, because it's built into your monthly maintenance charge. That's why they're higher. The CAM charge, that's the common area maintenance fee for maintaining those common areas. Well, you got one in condos, but it's higher in co-ops because they include the taxes, insurance, and other things in there. Maybe a water heating bill, electric could be included. Well, no, not electric. Usually a water or a heating bill would be included as well. You get an HOA application and approval required, not for condos. If you can afford to buy in there, you're in. There's no interview process or anything like that, but co-ops have them. HOA credit score minimum requirement, not with condos. They got them with co-ops. 620 FICO, right? Condos are managed by a homeowners association and co-ops by a board of directors. Insurance fee, you pay your own insurance for a condo. Co-ops, well, you get renter's insurance. Condos can be rented out. Co-ops generally cannot, except in that circumstance where you're trying to sell it for 4 or more months at a price no greater than your original purchase, and there's at least 10 units in the complex, then you're allowed to. Tax advantages are identical for both condos and co-ops. And can the owners be affected by the neighbors who don't pay their common area fees? Not with condos, just the one individual unit could get foreclosed on and it doesn't affect your neighbors. Unlike co-ops, it could. So, what is a condominium conversion? Well, it's when you buy an apartment building or multifamily house and you can convert it into a condominium. So conversions is when you convert an apartment building or multi-unit building into a condominium by deeding each unit separately and selling them individually and creating a homeowners association with that starting set of bylaws. Creation is regulated by the state's Horizontal Properties Act, and it requires approval 3 years and 2 months before the conversion may start, if it's not vacant. Why? Well, there's certain tenants that may not be evicted during condominium conversions. Now, if they meet all these criteria, they may remain as tenants for the next 40 years. People age 62 or older, or certain disabled persons, if they lived there for at least 2 years before the conversion began, and their income is no more than 3 times their county's per capita, or in any case, no more than $50,000 a year. If they meet all those requirements, they can remain as tenants for the next 40 years, and you cannot evict them to convert it to a condo. That's like those, I think they made Law and Order episodes based on these rules. You guys ever see that Law and Order episode with a cooperative? I think it was a cooperative, not a condo, in New York City, where the old lady owned the co-op unit, the apartment, in a building where people are paying tens of thousands of dollars of rent each month. In the meantime, she's paying like $500 a month rent. And they're like, wow, I could see how somebody would kill her over this, to get her out of there. You got a building owner or management, eyes go directly to them through, Law and Order is all about murder mysteries and stuff. They killed the old lady, got murdered in the apartment. She was paying like $500 a month rent in a building where they're collecting tens of thousands of dollars rent. Yeah, they got Law and Order episodes based on these rules. Okay, so here in the book, page 127 is where you could get these rules about who cannot be evicted and what a landlord has to do to convert a building to a condo. And then below that, remember, condominium owners receive a deed and therefore they own real estate. Co-op owners receive shares of stock in a proprietary lease, both of which are personal property, and therefore technically they do not own real estate. Yeah, they own stock in the corporation that owns the real estate. Let me know when everybody has that.
Got it.
Got it.
Got it.
Okay. So a townhouse, what is a townhouse? It's an architectural style. It's multi-level attached housing. So you've got units on the left of you, on the right of you, you've got units that are attached. There's a party wall that separates those units, but it's multi-level attached housing. Sometimes they have a garage under it too. But that's what the architectural style of a townhouse is. Do not conflate townhouse with condominium. Condominium is a form of ownership, whereas a townhouse is a architectural style. Often townhouses are condominiums. They don't have to be, though. They could be owned fee simple without a HOA. So usually you cannot tell simply by looking at it if a townhouse is fee simple ownership or if it's a condo complex or if it's a condominium where you need to follow some HOA's rules. Okay. So let's do those highlights. Let's get those down. Okay. So condominiums versus townhouses. Once again, condo is a form of ownership. It has an HOA in charge of maintaining the common area elements. They have rules the owners must follow, those CC&Rs that's set up in the bylaws. And townhouses are architectural styles, not a form of ownership. It's multi-level attached housing that shares a common party wall. Townhouses could be fee simple ownership or they can be condos. And often they are condos, where the owner doesn't have to cut the grass or maintain the exterior of the building. They could be fee simple ownership without an HOA, or they could be responsible for maintaining their part of the common area and the exterior elements. Let's take a look. I took this picture of some townhouses. These are some over 100-year-old townhouses in Linden, in my town. I drive by them a lot, so I snapped a picture of them. Some cases you can tell if there's a HOA involved, if they're condos. These are townhouses, multi-level units. These ones are only two levels, but you got two side by side here. So usually they'll be uniform in color and styles and everything, but sometimes condo complexes, they could alternate a pattern. Here, there seems no rhyme or reason. There's different patterns here, different materials. Look, they've got different types of railings. This one looks like it's a nice uniform, these two, but then these two, look, they got different types of steps, different materials for the steps, and the railing styles are different. Here, you got two attached units, two different colors, two different roof styles even. One, I think, is aluminum, and the other one's got asphalt shingle roof, there's like no rhyme or reason to this. So I would guess. Sometimes you could get a hint. Even though you don't look, you can't look and tell for sure what form of ownership it is simply by looking at it. Sometimes you could get an idea. Like this one, I would guess that this is not a condo, that these are fee simple ownership of these townhouses. And that's true. I know because I know somebody who lives in them in one of these and further down. Look at this. Some units, the grass is trimmed. Some don't have grass. Some do. Some have bushes. Some don't. Look at this one. This one's like falling apart. The bushes are overgrown. Yeah, these are all townhouses here. Yeah, definitely not condos though. I know this for a fact, but by looking at it, that would be my guess too. So even though you can't tell by looking at them, sometimes you could get a clue, like in this case. Okay, what about timeshares? You guys ever hear about timeshares? What's a timeshare? I want you to highlight time sharing, and right next to it is a form of ownership. Yeah, it's shared ownership. You got each week in a year, or it could be for 2 weeks or a month ownership. Timeshares, usually they're a week ownership. You own it 1 week out of the year. You know, that's when you would go vacationing. So you and 52 other owners, or 51 other owners, you all own the unit. You own week number, whatever, you know, it's assigned. That's the way timeshares usually work. You know, they're usually in vacation destination resort areas, you know, and they give you a high sales pitch, high pressure sales pitches to try to sell you. They even bribe you by telling you to come in. We'll give you free show tickets or dinner tickets or what have you to listen to our sales pitch, and then they could try to sell you their timeshare. Anybody here own a timeshare? Anybody ever go to one of these timeshare sales pitches?
I owned one for years, but the problem is you can't get out of it. So I actually had to hire a firm to get us out of it. We're still in the process, but I know people do not, they think they're horrible. We had the timeshare for, I would say, about 15 years, and we went
Yep.
on some great vacations. I mean, we really enjoyed it, but now, you know, my son's grown and now it's time to cancel it. So, but we had to pay somebody in order to cancel it.
And now it's a nightmare.
And now, yeah. So that's the
Timeshares timeshares are one of the worst purchases that, at least for most people, one of the worst purchases you could ever do. The only time that it would benefit you is if you regularly use it all the time. You know, otherwise it's not worth it, and it's more of a headache. The juice ain't worth the squeeze on it. I'm going to show you a couple of videos here put together by a timeshare cancellation company, and I'll let them do the talking. Okay, you can watch these videos and nod your head with it and confirm any of this or not. Okay, but let's go over this. So everybody, just write: time sharing is a form of ownership. You do own real estate when you own a timeshare. You just own it with a lot of other people. And what you're buying into often buying into these timeshares when they're brand new, and you have no idea what the taxes are going to be or what the monthly maintenance fee is going to be. And those charges, they could go up on you. Okay. So, in New Jersey, timeshare law applies to all timeshares sold in New Jersey, as well as those located outside of New Jersey, but sold in the state. The act requires certain disclosures be made when certain types of out-of-state properties, such as subdivided land sales, condominiums, and common interest ownership properties, are offered in New Jersey. Let's highlight: a timeshare buyer has the right to cancel a timeshare contract up to 7 days after signing the contract. But right there in the margin, new construction only. That rule does not apply to resales. So the buyer may cancel by certified mail or in person, whereupon the seller must refund all the payments within 30 days. I remember I was in Vegas once, and I had these two beautiful girls approach me as I got off an escalator in one of the hotels. And I was like, oh, wow, what's going on over here? You know, they're all chatting me up and stuff. And this is their job. They hire beautiful girls, very handsome guys. And what they do is they try to approach people, try to get them to come and attend their timeshare sales pitches to get a free show tickets or steak dinner or something to that effect. And that's exactly what happened here. And I was like, yeah, what the hell, I'll go, you know. Now, I was already a real estate broker. I knew what I was getting into here. I used it as a learning experience. Let me get some free stuff, and I'll play with them a little bit. Let me get some free stuff. And now I perfectly understood what I was getting into. You know, these are high pressure sales pitches here. Often you get trapped there for a while. They don't want to let you go real easy if they gave you something for free there. But you know, the free stuff that they offer you cannot be contingent upon you buying. So I knew I was getting whatever it was for free, you know, that they offered. But what I did is I tried to take it a step further and play with them a little bit. And the reason why I went to this timeshare sales pitch wasn't to get the free stuff. Uh, it was to look at and maybe see if I could learn something with their sales pitches, you know. And I was like, oh, I know this all. This is this. I could see it so transparent. These are highly trained salespeople, and I call it a three ring. I liken it to a three-ring circus because there's three rounds. First, they put you into a presentation. Uh, you can have it either as the old style where the salesperson will sit next to you, or the new way where the salespeople are all in the room next door watching you from video cameras that are in the ceiling, the low profile video cameras in the ceiling that are watching you watch a video of the presentation about their properties that they're trying to pitch you and talking about their company. So they're taking their notes when you're like, oh, look, honey, look at that. You know, they're taking the notes. Oh, I know what this sucker likes. And then after the presentation, they'll tell you, okay, now go out to the main room. We have tables for everybody. Don't congregate around the tables. We got enough tables for everyone. So if you came alone, just sit at one table. If you came as a couple, just sit at a table together there. And we'll have our salespeople will come out and assist you shortly. We have the free buffet or food or whatever it is that they got for you to snack on in the meantime. And then the salespeople that come out the first round are usually really good-looking salespeople. Well, why do they do this? Well, because it's hard to say no to somebody you're very attracted to, right? It's all a part of the high-pressure sales pitch, you know. And if you manage to get past them and say, "I'm not buying from you, get the hell out of my face," then they put a more experienced manager will come over to you and. Maybe not as young and maybe not as good looking, but they'll be very highly skilled and trained, and try to continue with the sales pitch. And then if you manage to get past that one, then they'll pull you off and stick you in a private room where the last manager, the head honcho, will give you your free stuff, and then you could be on your way. But they have you sitting and waiting there for a while. This is the cool off period because you're already livid. You want to get the hell out of there. You're pissed off with this constant nagging of sales pressure. So they sit you in the room for a while till you can't stand it no more. And then they come in the room all of a sudden. They'll pop up and they'll be like having a conversation with you just to get you your free stuff and be on your way. And it'll be all a matter of factly. They may even crack jokes with you just to loosen the tension. And then they'll go back into the sales pitch again. Okay. So when I went to mine, I finally got to that guy. Now I didn't look, my bad on that, but I bet that there was a camera in that room watching me because I was sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And then I was just like, what the F? You know, I was getting pissed off. So I stood up, I was about to get out of the room, and then boof, all of a sudden the guy showed up. Older guy. Hey, how you guys doing? An old guy doing that, you know? And then he's like, so what's up? You're not interested in the timeshare? I mean, you have to be interested in some, some level. You came here to the presentation, or I understand you just want the free stuff, right? And then he sits down, you know, cracks jokes, you know, And then he's like, well, why aren't you purchasing? I mean, it's a nice complex. It's in a good area. You got a lot of great amenities. What is it? Is it the price that turned you off? Is it the month? Is it the interest rate? What is it? And then they start trying to negotiate with you, and then they're like, well, what if I were able to do this to the price? I could give you this discount. They can't give that to you out there. So if you bought it from them, you weren't going to get the best price, but you're a sharp business person. I could see that. So what I'm going to do, so they're blowing smoke up your butt. So they're like, this is what I could do for you. I'm gonna cross out that price, and if I were able to get it for you for this price, would you sign today? That's exactly what they do too. They're like, if I were able to do this, would you sign today? And they put the pen in your face. You know, like, no, no. Oh, you're a tough cookie. You're a tough negotiator. Whew. You're not leaving me a lot here to work with. What if I were to lower the price to this? I mean, that's as low as I can go here. Would you be ready to sign today? No. What is it? Is it the interest rate? The interest rate's kind of high? Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, there's not much I could do with that, but what if I could get it down for this to you? You'll get it at this price, you'll get it at this interest rate, and you'll still get all the free stuff that we promised you. Would you be willing to sign today? You know, that's the kind of tactics that they do. And I was like, so, nah, I don't want it, you know? And he's like, okay. Now this is the best. This is the lowest I can go. I mean, I'm not. I mean, I gotta eat. I gotta live. I gotta feed the kids. You know, you're really killing me here. Uh, this is the lowest I could go. I'm gonna lower the price down to this for you. Ooh, you're good. Here, the interest rate. I could do this. This is the best I could do though, and you'll still get all the free stuff. You know, would you sign today? And I said, so I'm going to get all this free stuff. I'm going to get it at that price and that interest rate. So now this is me playing him, you know. And he's like, yes. And I was like, well, that's better, but, you know, I'm not really sold yet. I was like, how about, you know, I'm in Vegas for 3 more days here, and it's August, and my sneakers are melting to the ground when I walk on the street. It's so damn hot out there. I said, if you could get me also some tickets to the Carrot Top comedy show in my hotel, and I'm with a couple of people, so if you get me some more tickets for the steak dinner, I don't want redeemable stuff that I got to mail in and sign up for because that's never going to happen, and I'm never going to get those free things. So I want these tickets to the shows that I could attend now while I'm still here in Vegas, and I want my free steak dinners now, plus a couple more for my friends. And you know, if you could get me a rental car that has working air conditioner for the remainder 3 days that I got here, if you cover the cost of that, I'll buy the timeshare. And he was like, "Oh, well, we don't do that. We can't do that." And I was like, well, then I'm not interested. Here, I'm not interested. And he said, well, hold on a second. Let me see what I could do. He's like, this is going to take a little while. Let me see what I could do. I was like, okay. So he left the room, and I'm waiting for like 15 minutes. Then he pokes his head in again. I didn't forget about you. I'm working on it. You know, gone again for a little while. Next thing you know, the guy comes in. He's like, here's your free steak dinners, and here's some more tickets for them where you could get them now. You don't got to mail in for them. Here's some tickets, complimentary tickets to the Carrot Top comedy show in the Luxor. That's where I was staying at the time. And then he's like, here's the rental car's on its way. He's like, as far as the other free vacation that we offered you, that I can't give you tickets for that. That you need to mail in and schedule and stuff. And I was like, yeah, I understand that. But he's like, and the rental car's on its way. I was like, okay. So I ended up negotiating, getting a lot more free stuff out of him. And then when I got home after vacation, I got home 3 days, you know, after the 3 days, I had a FedEx package sitting right on my doorstep, you know, for the timeshare. Before I opened up my luggage, I pulled out the letter that was sitting on top with the prepaid FedEx envelope there with it for return, and I signed my right of rescission to cancel the purchase, and I FedExed it right back to him. I did not end up buying that timeshare, so I canceled it. So I just got some free stuff. I negotiated some free stuff. But I tell you what, knowing what I was getting into, it was still a headache to deal with. So I could just imagine for people who aren't expecting that, going through all that high pressure sales tactics. But if you guys haven't gone to one, you know, I don't recommend going to it for an enjoyable experience, but maybe you could get some free crap out of them. Here. So timeshare is a form of ownership for a short period of time each year. It could be a week, 2 weeks, a month, etc. I've even seen timeshares on cruise ships. They were selling cabins on cruise ships as timeshares. Yeah. Okay, so the penalties for violating timeshare laws, which in New Jersey can be pretty strict, is a minimum $250 fine with a maximum $50,000 fine per offense for out-of-state subdivided land and timeshare sales violations, which also applies to large in-state subdivisions, these fines. Okay, so here is a guy from a timeshare cancellation company. This is a commercial. I just recorded it off the television set, and here, let me share this with you.
If you bought a timeshare for your family, by now you've learned the ugly truth. Timeshares are the only thing that you can buy that you don't know how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. It's like giving them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. Sounds crazy, right? The ugly truth is that this never ends. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, and 10 years ago, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, helping good folks just like you cancel their timeshare contract. And what that means for you and your family, no more mortgage payments, no more maintenance fee surprises, and no more timeshare. So call today.
So you're still working on getting rid of your
So call
timeshare?
today. If you bought a timeshare, more timeshare.
Here's a phone number for you. If you're
So
if you got that timeshare still, you're still working on trying to get rid of it. Yeah, it can take a while though.
I actually spoke to this company.
Oh, yes.
My timeshare is with Harborside and Atlantis.
Uh-huh.
And they don't work with Atlantis because they do not have a good record of getting them canceled. So I actually went with another company. And the process takes it's 18 months. So I had to do a couple of things in the beginning. And then they said, okay, they said you will not hear from us for about 6 months. And then after that 6 months, we'll probably have a bit of an update for you, but it can take up to 18 months. And they only have success if you're current on, if the timeshare is paid off and if you're current on your maintenance fees. If you're not, it's very hard to get out of it.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this guy used the first company that he was actually a timeshare salesperson himself and made a lot of money off of that. And then he saw how people were getting screwed over, and he was like, you know what? He came up with the idea of the timeshare cancellation company, and then they actually got sued and took it to federal court. And then they became, the federal court sided with them, and they were able to start canceling timeshares, So his was actually the first company that started doing this. But yeah, there's other timeshare companies out there to do this as well. But yeah, it could be, it could take a while. Now they put together the same company. That's the same company. They put together this little lesson about what timeshares are and how they work and how the scheme of them works. So let's play it. It's a 3-part series. They're really short videos though, so I'm going to play them for you.
Well, we have a consumer warning to tell you about this afternoon for anyone who's trying to sell a timeshare.
Probably heard horror stories of folks going into a timeshare sales pitch and being stuck there for hours.
The maintenance fees were going up 12.5% every single year.
This is the Great American Timeshare Scam. Like most bad things, timeshare started out with really good intentions. But greed, deception, and manipulation has distorted this once creative tool that helped families vacation and turned it into a lifetime of debt for millions of families. In the 60s and 70s, timeshare was a brand new, innovative way to fund property development. And for a while, the system worked. Resorts popped up everywhere, with families owning fixed-week timeshares at a reasonable cost. So what changed? Timeshare companies became obsessed with the bottom line. Profits, money, commissions. Oh my. And now, this steal of a deal, own your vacation, you just bought a house scheme is bribing people to attend sales meetings and deceiving families into a loan that can never be repaid. Thanks for watching. This was actually just part 1 of a 3-part series on the most deceptive practices within the timeshare industry. If you're interested in learning more, watch part 2, the dark psychology of the timeshare sales meeting. In that video, we go over the manipulative and dishonest tools the timeshare salesmen use to make the sale. to make you buy. Spoiler alert, it's not a sales pitch, it's a show.
That it is. So here's part 2, the dark psychology.
You own your house, why wouldn't you own your vacation? Deals like this come once in a lifetime, and you won't have access to it once you step out of this meeting.
If you've ever sat through a timeshare presentation, you've likely heard this phrase or something like it before. This technique is called the exploding offer, or what is more commonly known as FOMO. And unfortunately, it's not the only technique they're using on you to make the deal. This is the dark psychology of the timeshare sales meeting. So how do people find themselves in awful timeshare situations? Simple. Timeshare salesmen understand humanity's dark psychology. For example,
if you don't do this now, this deal may run out and be gone forever.
What does your brain instinctively want to do now that you've heard this?
Do it before it's too late.
This tactic is known as the scarcity effect. Scarcity pushes people to make impulsive decisions like buying up all the toilet paper during a global pandemic because...
What if we run out of all the toilet paper?
Right. Very rational. We're not going to go too far down that rabbit hole, but generally a feeling of regret follows impulse buys. Stop me if you know it. Buyer's remorse. Another example is the law of reciprocity, where people feel obligated to stay for the sales meeting because they were given free tickets to an event or a free dinner. This is why they... Watch the glass. This is why they bribe people to come to the sales presentation, because it makes people feel like they should give back their time in exchange for these gifts. And these are just a few examples of the dark psychology timeshare salesmen use. They are masters of persuasion. This is why it's so important to be aware of the psychological influences that affect decision making. That way, you never find yourself in a timeshare presentation to begin with.
Ready for vacations for life?
Keep on walking, pal. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned. You just finished part 2 of our 3-part series on the deceptive practices to look out for in the timeshare industry. The next video is the timeshare contract. In that video, we go over why the timeshare companies will pressure you into that first sale, because once they've got you, they're not going to let you go, at least not without a fight.
And that's the fight you're going through right now, right?
You own your house.
So let's go over that.
Timeshare is an investment. You'll be able to rent it out. You'll be able to travel anywhere you want for life. This is the timeshare contract. I'm gonna save you the heartache and explain why the timeshare companies try so hard to sell you timeshare. Because the first sale is just the beginning of the ultimate con that's about to destroy your finances. Let's start with the low-hanging fruit. If they can convince you to buy a timeshare, they're guaranteed consistent yearly income without having to give you anything but imaginary points. What a deal for the timeshare company, right? Free maintenance paid for by you for their property that they actually own. They're called maintenance fees, and they go up every single year. A big fat commission because timeshare barely costs the company anything. Seriously, sometimes that salesperson is getting over 30%. And get this, once they've got you, it's nearly impossible to get out. If you try to cancel, they'll tell you they can't do anything. You signed a contract. They may even tell you to sell it yourself. They definitely won't buy it back. They don't want it, and they know it has no value. But if you try to sell it, it turns out no one else actually wants to buy it either. Spoiler alert, there is no market for timeshare resales. None, zero, zilch, nil market for it. Look at this eBay listing for a timeshare. For $1. We've even seen people offer gift cards to take their timeshare. No, I'm good, man.
But it's an investment.
Get out of here! What's crazier is that these timeshares still won't sell, so families are stuck in the timeshare scam, paying all their outrageous fees. And then, when they finally had enough, they're out more money for another service to help them get rid of it. Now, hypothetically, hang with me here, let's say you actually did get that timeshare sold. This means someone else now has your timeshare, which is perfect, right? You no longer have to deal with this financial burden. But there could be a catch. And we've seen this happen over and over. If the person who bought your timeshare stops paying and the timeshare company comes calling, guess who could be on the hook for all of that debt? Yep, the original owner of the timeshare. Oh, shh. And I say this to really show you how hard getting out of a timeshare is. There are plenty of other stories and examples of this kind of unfortunate situation, but I think you get the sad point. Oftentimes, once an owner has tried a couple different avenues to get out, they begin to lose hope. This is what the timeshare companies count on. They want you to sit down, shut up, and pay them your money without actually getting anything in return. They seem more like a mafia than a reputable business.
I'm going to sell you a timeshare you can't refuse.
But thankfully, you don't have to be hopeless. It seems like one of the only ways you can actually cancel your timeshare and all its related debt and fees is through a timeshare exit company. It isn't easy, and it can take up to 3 years, but it is possible. The only caveat per se is that it needs to be a reputable company. There are a few good ones out there, but as these timeshare exit companies have gotten bigger, the timeshare companies have actually started suing them into oblivion. We know this for a fact because they sued us too, but we beat them in federal court for the right to help people like you get relief from the burden of the never-ending lies and fees. This video series only scratches the surface on the most deceptive practices within the timeshare industry. If you want more videos like this, hit that like button. And if you have experienced any of these tactics yourself, tell your story below. It helps people understand that they are not alone, and the situation they found themselves in is nothing to be embarrassed about. Also, if you haven't seen the other videos in this series yet, make sure to check out The Great American Timeshare Scam and The Dark Psychology of the Timeshare Meeting. What you discover may shock you.
Interesting. All right, so that's the timeshares, right? That's about it, right? That your experience so far with your timeshare and trying to get rid of it?
Like I said, we enjoyed it for like 15 years, and it was great when my son was young, and we used it every year. So I
Yeah, as long as you use it every year. Yeah, as long as you use it every year, it could be
we
worth
did.
it.
We used it every year. We went all over the world. It was, for us, it worked. It's just unfortunate that I have to pay somebody to cancel it. I mean, I think you should be able, if you buy it and you use it and you're done with it and you want to get rid of it, I think you should be able to get rid of it. But to have to pay somebody, that's the downfall of it. But like I said, we enjoyed it while we had it.
You try selling it?
You can't sell it. You can't sell it, and you can't, exactly what they said. You can't sell it, nobody wants it, and you can't rent it. You could rent it, but what they say is you can rent it to pay your maintenance fees, but your maintenance fees are higher than what somebody will rent it for. So that doesn't work. And with the timeshare company, the exit company, they do all of these tactics that this video was talking about. Like, they pressure you and they tell you you can rent it and sell it. That's what they use. That's what the exit company uses to sell, to get you out of it. They write letters saying, like, you pressured our client and you made them do this and you told them they were going to get that. And that's basically how they get you out of it. And I guess they pay more attention to the exit companies than an individual trying to do it on their own. Yeah. So that's why you have to pay them.
I just read that most contracts are written in perpetuity. That means the obligation can last for life. In many cases, it can be passed on to your heirs.
Yeah, yes, that's one of the sales tactics, is that it goes to your children.
Oh, wow. So they tell you that.
Yeah, they tell you. They're like, and you'll have this, and then it'll pass on to your son. And I'm like, okay, my son doesn't want it. But anyway, but yes, they do. That's true.
Thing. Yeah, you can pass it on to your kids. They're like, what if they don't want it? Well, you're stuck with it. You know. Oh man, yeah, that kind of sucks. Yeah, you should be able to get out of it. You should be able to sell it and not be on the hook if the person you sell it to doesn't pay the bills. You're still responsible. The original person's still responsible, which is crazy. You know, how those things can even be legal. So anyway, So here's a few common architectural styles. You guys should familiarize yourself with architectural styles if you're planning on being in real estate. You guys know the difference between a colonial, a Victorian, a Cape Cod. Uh, there's a lot of a ranch, a raised ranch. There's so many different types of architectural styles, and when we get listings, we need to put that architectural style in the MLS. So you should be able to identify the different types of architectural styles to be able to put them in the database correctly. So the information in there is good for when people search for homes that want or don't want a specific architectural style. So I have a guide here I got from the Realtor magazine. I'm putting together my own. It's a lot of work, but I'm putting together my own guide that distinguishes the differences between the different ones, but also having drawings made up to put them there so you can see the differences. But you guys should familiarize yourself with them. Do some Google searches, maybe, and image searches. Cape Cod. I mean, the ones on the left we see most common here in New Jersey. Some of the ones on the right too, but Cape Cods, colonials, Victorians, ranch, raised ranch, bungalow, split levels, Tudors, contemporary, bi-level, townhouse, duplexes. That's two families side by side. Then you have the over-under two families, one above the other. Art Deco, Craftsman, Salt Box, Dutch Colonial, Federal, Georgian, Monterey, Gothic, Greek, Pueblo, Queen Anne designs, apartment buildings, high rises. There's a lot of different architectural styles, and you should familiarize yourself with them. Here, if I click on this link, we could see the Realtors Association's guide of what they put together for us for architectural styles. It's not the best drawings. I mean, I live in a Cape Cod. My house looks nothing like this. Actually, if you turned it on its side, this would be the front door. That's the way more it would look, and it has an attached garage. With Cape Cods, there's different styles of Cape Cods too. You got the small, medium, and large ones. What's the difference between them? What's unique about them? What's the layout of them? Here's just a little brief description about them. And all of these have some sort of, this is better than nothing. Okay. Here's a colonial, colonial and the history and explanation of them. But, what's the difference between a colonial and a Victorian? Victorians tend to be larger, more ornate in their design. They tend to have wraparound porches, wider stairwells, bigger fireplaces. All the bedrooms are usually on the second floor, although some of the newer colonials, they put bedrooms on the first floor for those family members that can't climb stairs. I live in a Cape Cod, but my house more resembles this, minus these dormers up here for the second level, because it's a 1.5, pretty much with the slanted roof. And I got the garage over there. But you should familiarize yourself with different architectural styles. So here's that to help you out a little bit, the different architectural styles. And then if in here, there's also another link for structural elements, architectural structural elements, like the types of different arches and what they're called, the types of columns, dormers, the different styles, moldings, the different style roofs, and their names. What are they called? If you're going to be in real estate, it's good to learn these things. The different type of window casings. Share that link with you guys as well. It's better than nothing, but if you guys subscribe to our Facebook page. I will post it up there once I have it. The architectural style guide that I'm putting together. I will post it up there. It will be available. I am working on it actively and should be done with it in a couple of months. I still got a couple more, but it's good to have that architectural style guide handy anyway. All right. And that's the end of this chapter. So let's do the key terms to review for chapter 7. There's only one key terms to there's two key terms to review. No modifications to make, so let's do it. Ownership.
Title.
13 is A. Default form of ownership for those who are unmarried and not in a civil union. What's a default form of ownership? 2 or more people not married.
Joint tenancy.
The default form is tenancy in common. Joint tenancy, you have to specify you wish to take ownership in that form. So the default form of ownership, if 2 or more people own a property together, or business entities, corporations can own as this way as well, is tenancy in common. 11 is B. A person named in a will to inherit real estate. What do you call someone that you name in a will?
Devisee.
A devisee. 2 is C. Group with each partner completely liable.
General partnership.
The general partnership. 3 is D. Non-married person with the right of survivorship.
Joint tenancy.
Joint tenancy. 4 is E. Business owned by one person or entity.
Sole proprietorship.
Yep. 9 is F. 9 is F. Sole proprietorship. Co-owners join together to carry on a business.
Partnership.
Partnership. 7 is G. Court-ordered sale and division.
Partition.
A partition. 6 is H. Legal entity considered to be an artificial person.
Corporation.
Corporation. 1 is I. Process by which a co-owner automatically receives the share of a co-owner who dies.
Right of survivorship.
Yep. Right of survivorship. 8 is J. Special ownership by married couples.
Tenancy by the entirety.
Correct. 10 is K. Real estate ownership by only one. By one person or entity.
Tenancy in severalty.
In severalty, correct. It comes from the root word sever. Your interests are severed from all others. 12 is L. A group with only the general partner fully liable.
Limited partnership.
5 is M, limited partnership, right? So the other partners who are limited, they're limited in their liability to the extent of their initial purchase. Correct. Okay, key terms 2 on the next page. Co-owners' right to a specific apartment. Oh, I'm sorry, co-owners. What did I say?
Proprietary lease.
Co-op owners' rights to a specific apartment. What did you say?
Proprietary.
A proprietary lease. 8 is A. A group elected to manage a corporation.
Board of directors.
Did I say corporation? Oh my God, what's wrong with me? To manage a cooperative. 1 is B, the board of directors. Yes, you guys got it right. Architectural term.
Townhouse.
A townhouse. 11 is C, correct. Stairwells, roofs, etc., owned by all. These are referred to as
common elements.
Common element.
Common elements. 2 is D. An apartment whose buyer receives a proprietary lease and stock in the corporation.
Cooperative.
A cooperative, sometimes called a co-op for short. 5 is E. Fee simple ownership of a living unit.
Condominium.
A condominium. 3 is F. All owners in one condominium complex.
Homeowners association.
To which all of the owners will belong. 6 is G, correct. Apartment house changed to condos.
Conversion.
4 is H, it is a conversion. Money set aside for future repairs.
Reserves.
9 is I, reserves. Ownership for part of a year.
Timeshare.
Time sharing.
Time sharing. 10 is J. Regulates the creation of condominiums.
Horizontal Properties Act.
Correct. 7 is K, the Horizontal Properties Act, and that ends chapter 7.